Hello from WKYT News. I'm Bill Bryant, and we welcome you to Kentucky Newsmakers. Today we'll get up to date on the happenings at Eastern Kentucky University. EKU is pressing ahead with plans for an osteopathic medicine program to train primary care doctors. It's estimated Kentucky will need hundreds of additional primary care physicians by 2030. If you have flown on a commercial plane recently, chances are one of your pilots came from EKU's growing aviation school. EKU also has an area of expertise in law enforcement and is a top school for military veterans. Construction is well underway on a new model laboratory campus. Eastern's Board of Regents recently approved a new 4-year contract for President Dr. David McFaddin, who joins us today on Kentucky Newsmakers. Thanks for coming. We appreciate it very much.
Great to be with you, Bill.
Congratulations on the new contract extension. Has to be gratifying to have the confidence of the Board of Regents that they want to keep you on the job in Richmond.
Well, as an alum of the institution, came in 1996. We find ourselves in 2026, so it feels like a 30-year love affair with a place that has made such a big impact on my life, and I know others like you as well.
Even some of the years that you were away, you were involved.
Yeah, adjunct faculty. Never really left Eastern once I came in 96. So.
The legislature is meeting, putting together a new state budget. The numbers are not final, but it appears there is a significant cut to higher education. UK says it'll be 4% next year, 3% the next year in state dollars. What is the situation the same right now for EKU?
Yeah, the numbers are a little different for each institution, but it looks like the composite over the 2-year for us right now is proposed is right at 9%, 9% reduction to our base support. So obviously a significant impact to the institution. You know, those state dollars are the first dollars in. They make the biggest impact, and so we're hopeful as we go through this process and the budget moves from the House to the Senate and probably to a conference committee that we can start to make some inroads on trying to reclaim some of that potential cut that's out there, and I do think the House has still got some work to do around budgeting in some other budget bills.
What case do you make to lawmakers that higher education is a good investment?
Yeah, I think exactly what you said is the return on investment. As we look at across the nation, particularly in Kentucky, we see that there is a multi-factor return on every dollar invested in our higher education institutions. And as you talked on the entry, from healthcare to aviation to education to engineering to AI, our universities are powering that part of the economic sector in Kentucky. And so I think if we're going to continue to reposition Kentucky for economic success, we got to continue to invest in our universities.
I mean, an 8 or 9% cut would be very significant to you, wouldn't it?
About a $7 million base reduction to our base budget.
Now, what would that do?
I think for us, that's jobs. At the end of the day, I think as we navigate that, we'll try to work through all the pieces that we can to find efficiency, but at the end of the day, if we have to make that kind of cut, it will have some impact on employment at the university.
So you're continuing to work with the legislature and hope it doesn't happen?
Absolutely.
Let's talk about the proposed school of osteopathic medicine. You've been after this for a hard 3 years now. 94% of Kentucky's counties have a shortage of primary care providers, we understand. Where do things stand with your efforts to train family physicians at EKU?
Yeah, well, we're excited. We're continuing this journey. As you said, we're well into this. We're going through a budget request process right now. The accrediting body for osteopathic medical schools requires an escrow fund. It's about $42 million. That was included in the executive budget. It was funded in the executive budget. That fund has to be intact until we graduate the first class, and so that would not happen right now until 2034. So we're looking for legislative support to fund that escrow. That money's just going to sit there. It's not going to be spent. It's really an insurance account that says, hey, we're going to make this thing work and work successfully. Once we move beyond that escrow funds, we move into the capital construction of a new medical school. And so our capital request for this legislative session is a health innovation center that would include the medical school. We're hopeful that there will be some capital opportunities in this budget. Still a lot to be seen in that space as we move forward. But as you see, it's a long runway for this type of investment. I think the last time I was here, I said, hey, this is a decade-long process. We're 3 years in, so we've got 7 years in counting.
Well, this Health Innovation Center, this would be a complex that would take in all of the health fields? Is that?
Yeah, our intention is that the medical school obviously would be an anchor to that, but EKU School of Nursing just celebrated 60 years of nursing at EKU. Occupational therapy, medical laboratory science, emergency medical care, all of our healthcare programs, we're going to try to get those into one facility. About 3,000 students on the Richmond campus who would be learning, living, and they are with us at that time. The other thing for us is that of the universities, the public universities in Kentucky, there's only two who have not got health sciences buildings in the last decade. That's Eastern Kentucky University and Morehead State.
So often doctors who are trained in Kentucky end up leaving the state, or certainly do not practice in the rural areas of Kentucky. Are you convinced that EKU's program would help with that situation?
I think a twofold approach. One, we're number one for Kentucky enrollment. We educate more Kentuckians per capita than any of the other comprehensive universities. Our students stay in Kentucky at the highest rates of any students who go to our post-secondary institutions here in Kentucky. So I think that's one great kind of indicator that it's easier to keep someone in Kentucky who's from this place. And I think Happy Chandler said that any good Kentuckian is on their way home or thinking about going home. So I think beyond that, for us, creating those residency and those graduate medical experiences in the state are key. And so we are currently working with many of our hospital partners right now to look to stand up some more graduate medical education residency placements. If we can get them into a residency placement in our Kentucky hospitals, the chances of keeping them, and nationally when we look at this, are significantly higher.
So the way this works is they would get their osteopathic medical education at EKU, then you find somewhere for them to do a residency.
That's exactly. They may go to Pikeville, they may go to London, they may go to Paducah, but we get those residency placements across the state so that they spend those next 3 or 4 years there training. But you know, that a lot of life happens during those periods of time. And I think if we look nationally, where a doctor does their residency, typically they end up living within 3 hours of wherever that location was.
What's your time frame again for getting the osteopathic medical school up and rolling?
If everything works as planned, the first class joins us in 2031. They graduate in 2034.
As I mentioned, EKU's pilots are everywhere these days. The aviation program seems to have really taken off in recent years. It's the state's only FAA-approved university flight program. Does demand for pilots continue to fuel the aviation program? Absolutely
astounding to me. We just got the economic data. The average pilot in Kentucky this past year made $413,000. As we look at UPS, DHL, Amazon, logistics, supply chain, aerospace and aviation, such a big part of Kentucky's economy. And I think as we continue to look at the demand for pilots, we're seeing many of our graduates having signing bonuses as sophomores and juniors to leave the university when they do graduate in 2 or 3 years, already employed and ready to go fly for many of our airlines and to enter into the
Come with that number
space.
Again.
$413,000 is the average compensation for a commercial pilot.
Per year?
Per year.
Well, that's a good paycheck.
That's right.
So do you have agreements in place with airlines to get some of your students directly on their staffs?
So we have great partnerships with Allegiant. We are engaged with many of the flags that fly out there. But you know, we really kind of try to connect the student with their kind of dream employer. So we really don't facilitate that from a university setting to say, hey, you're going to Delta and you're going to United and you're going here. But rather we try to bring that whole community together and try to connect the students with the places they want to be. And as we know, you know, these different airlines fly more or less out of different locations across the U.S., but lots of aviation activity going on right here in Kentucky as well.
And there's also an aviation management track where people want to run airports, I guess, or take part in running an airline. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. So if we think about an airport, while the aviators and those who are on the planes make up a big part of that workforce, an even bigger part of that is the management of the airport in general. And so lots of demands for that degree. We're excited. One of our new program proposals is an air traffic control degree. That would be a 2-year degree, a management degree. You get an associate's while also getting the air traffic control certification. Working with the General Assembly on that project right now.
And you're also doing drone training. training as part of the aviation program, right?
Well, we are unmanned aircraft and drone training, a big part of the kind of the growth for what's next in aerospace and aviation.
Law enforcement has been another emphasis of EKU over the years. More and more often these days, law enforcement officers do have a college degree or even a graduate degree. Is that trend continuing?
Yeah, we continue to see a lot of interest in our College of Justice and Safety and Military Science. Obviously, we're seeing a lot of generational shifts in employment. We're seeing a generation of professionals who have worked, whether it be in the airlines or in the law enforcement field. There's a big demand for new graduates in that space, both at the local, state, and federal level. And so we continue to see strong demand for our law enforcement degrees and our graduates.
Being mindful of the U.S. operations in the Middle East right now, EKU has made extensive efforts to be a veteran-friendly campus. What do those students, who often are non-traditional by the time they get to the college campus, bring to the mix?
You know, I think, Bill, one of the things that's so important to notice is, you know, while we have those active duty and veteran members of our university community, it's also their immediate family members. And so it's the children and the spouses of those individuals. And so I really think that they bring a deep perspective of service and community and commitment and responsibility to the campus. And so, you know, even in my own experience when I was a student, we were very much a military-friendly university for all those years. That perspective in the classroom, I think, is important. I think that perspective on our campus is also very important for who we are and who we serve. And, you know, as we have graduation, I always take a chance to recognize those who have served. It is a great honor to serve those who have served us most. And we take a lot of pride in being Kentucky's #1 veteran-friendly university.
What do you do to support them?
Yeah, so we have a veterans, our Office of Military and Veterans Support Services. Dr. Vin Thomas runs that. We have a whole division that's really committed to serving that population of students on campus. It is the largest affinity population of students on campus, with nearly 2,000 of our enrolled students veteran affiliated.
Well, now as one of Kentucky's comprehensive regional university, Eastern's roots are as a teacher's college, a normal school back in the day. What is the update on the new model laboratory school being built on campus, which will, as I understand it, house your College of Education as well?
Yeah, so we'll be moving the College of Education, School of Education will be moving to the Stratton building, adjacently located with Model Lab. We are currently at 90% design on this project. We've already started early earthwork. We'll be bidding this project sometime in the next 30 to 45 days, and eager to really kind of continue the process. We expect to be in there having school in the fall of 2028. That seems like a long way away, but it'll be right around the corner. But we're really excited about having Kentucky's only laboratory school. The work that we do, and year in and year out, the administration and leadership at the school there have done a great job as they continue to be a top-ranked school in Kentucky. But really, when we think about the Model Lab School, what it's there to do is serve our post-secondary students in our teacher prep program, in our healthcare programs, and our communication disorders programs. We have so many clinical placements in that lab school. It really is a treasure for us to use for all the programs that we have at EKU.
And the younger students benefit from that.
They absolutely do.
Is it difficult to attract education majors these days, given the pay situation? You know, particularly in Kentucky, we're obviously not keeping up.
You know, it's been very cyclical. You know, my time at Eastern, now I'm into my 15th year of being here, and I've kind of watched a cycle in education. We had a down period. There was a time when education was up, and there were obviously more graduates than there were jobs. We saw that kind of taper off there in the kind of the teens of the 2000s. Now we're back to very strong enrollments. Enrollment is growing in that college, and demand is there. I think for us, it's just that if we look across the state and talk to superintendents, there's a big demand for teachers and qualified teachers, and so we're trying to fill that need as quickly as possible. But we have seen strong growth in the College of Education and Applied Human Sciences.
Do you talk directly with the schools about their needs?
Yeah, we have a lot of conversations with the co-ops, with the direct school partners. Dean Elizabeth Smith, our Dean of the College of Education and Applied Human Sciences, she's very engaged in that space. Dr. John Williamson, who is the Superintendent and Dean of K-12 programs at Model Lab, they are out almost continuously talking to our school districts, figuring out what their needs are and making sure that we're preparing students to meet those needs.
We do hear a lot of talk these days about the cost of education, college education, whether it continues to be a good value and a good return. Do you feel that is the case at EKU, and just for the idea of a higher ed degree?
Yeah, I think, Bill, when you look at the investment over a 4-year period, and that those 4 years are going to shape the next 40 years of your life, taking the time to make that investment in yourself, especially at a school like EKU, where we've got a workforce-focused institution. When we look at our degrees, they are the degrees that power our communities, from education to healthcare to law enforcement to social work to aviation to engineering. The types of degrees that we're producing really are the places that there are the jobs. And so for me, if we look at just the studies out there, the difference between a high school diploma and a college degree is about $1.4 million over the span of someone's career. To me, I think that's a significant investment. But I think also when we think about not what's your first job, but what's your last job? Can you be mobile through your career and be able to pursue the next opportunity? And if we're sitting here today saying we know exactly what the economy is going to look like in 25 years with the advent of things like AI and technology and all the things, we better have a prepared workforce that can adjust and be flexible to meet those needs.
Changing, isn't it? Yeah.
It is.
Intercollegiate athletics are different these days with NIL. You have UK literally running athletics like a business these days. How is EKU navigating that?
Yeah, we're kind of caught in the middle. We've been a Division I program since there's been a Division I. We compete at the highest level for national championships in every division except for football, where we are a football championship division football program. The amount of change we've seen in college athletics in the last 24 months is more than we've seen in the last 50 years. And the pace of change is immense. The litigation environment is concerning. I'm not a coach, but as I talk to our coaches, the transfer portal and the lack of continuity of being able to bring young men and women into the university, really build into them to be very focused on them getting a degree first, but having a great experience is challenging because we're just seeing so much movement. It's unsettling, I will say, and I think everyone in this space is looking for things to hopefully find a calming point and some continuity.
EKU's Board of Regents recently decided to surplus the Hummel Planetarium. A lot of people have memories of watching programs there and getting some education there. You say it's just not practical to keep it.
Yeah, I think for us, as we look across campus, I'm the 14th president of this great institution. I'm the third alum to serve in the seat, and there were two before me who had. And the first one who did that was a guy named Robert Martin. And from 1960 to 1976, he built more square footage on Eastern's campus than any group of presidents outside of that. And so most of the square footage on our campus is somewhere between 50 to 60 to 70 years old. And so they're coming to the end of their lives. And so for us, as we look at those spaces and we look at those buildings, it's a hard decision. We have a deep commitment to trying to protect the legacy and the rich heritage of the university and the space. But practically, when it comes to the planetarium, it's one of those situations where the financial commitments to bring it back to being a fully functioning planetarium versus perhaps moving in a different direction is just so prohibitive. And the world has changed a lot with the type of technology for which you would use to do that. But I understand there's a lot of feelings about that. I, too, went there on field trips as a student, and I understand. Well,
there were strong feelings and backlash from the community when you decided to tear down a 150-year-old J. Stone Walker house along Lancaster Avenue right around Christmas. The preservationists said that the architecture was Italianated and impressive, made it very special. There's a loss of heritage. Was that a difficult decision?
All of these decisions are terribly difficult, Bill. My wife and I restored a historic home and have went through that process. But when we're talking about the university's resources, and we think about the demands across campus, from housing to academic spaces to steam lines to all those things, there's more demand than there are resources to do those things. And so as it related to that house, it had become a public safety concern. It had become a challenge for us to manage, to try to keep it safe in that way. And then ultimately, we'd worked over the period of about 7 or 8 years to try to figure out a solution. And finally, we got to a point that we were at a tipping point. And from a public safety standpoint and from an overall management standpoint, we had to make a decision. So.
You're excited about what's ahead, obviously.
We are. We're excited about the days ahead. Eager to work with the legislature to wrap up this session and hopefully find some opportunities there, and then just continue to move EKU forward.
EKU President Dr. David McFaddin, thanks for coming. We appreciate it. We'll be back on Kentucky Newsmakers in a moment. We welcome you back to Kentucky Newsmakers here from WKYT. One of the major stories this week was UK Athletics Director Mitch Barnhart's decision to retire. He spoke about it on a video with UK President Eli Capilouto that was released by UK.
The young people that we are guiding, that we're trying to say education matters. Be educated. We want you to get your education. We want you to get a degree. We want you to be prepared for the next piece of your life. And the second piece is learn how to compete. What does that look like? What does it look like to go out and just absolutely not have your best day and fail? And to be able to recover and find your way to victory.
Talking about some of the life lessons that sports can help you with. We're joined right now by WKYT Sports Director Lee K. Howard. This will be a big change for UK. Did it surprise you that Barnhart is stepping down?
It did not surprise me overall that Barnhart was coming near to the end of his career. Maybe the timing of it. It happened literally on a game day for Kentucky men's basketball in the month of March. I think a lot of us expected that this kind of thing could happen maybe by the end of this year, maybe announced in April or May. So it surprised me a little bit, but 24 years is a really long time to serve in one place. He was the longest athletics director in the Power Four conferences.
Lee K, let's talk about how the landscape has changed in 24 years. I mean, it's an amazingly different world, really, in college athletics.
Absolutely. I mean, it's unrecognizable in many ways when you think about when he was hired back in 2002. It was about managing the teams and managing the coaches and making the hires and that sort of thing. And now it is big business. I mean, college athletics is all about the money, and you're figuring out huge budgets not only pay the coaches but to pay the players, and there's just so many differences. Now, I think Barnhart was a little bit slow to some of those changes, but you have to give him credit as well for catching up in many ways over the last couple of years. But that is a big job for anyone who sits in that seat.
And maybe being careful. I mean, because all of a sudden, as you said, this became business decisions. And, you know, the university has a corporation now that's set up to run. I mean, that's just the way it is now.
It is. I mean, it is that job. You used to hire the old baseball coach to be your athletics director. And now you need to hire the best business person that you can find in your community or in your state to be that exact role.
And so now there is speculation about what comes next, and of course there is, and a lot out there. Internal candidates, external candidates, nationwide search. What do you believe to be going on?
Well, I mean, there will certainly be a lot of interest, and the names that have popped around right now are all speculatory at this moment. There are a couple in-house who have been with Barnhart, with being Mark Hill and Rachel Baker, and who have served in those high roles. There are also people who have worked under Barnhart who are athletics directors at 7 other schools across the country. Whether or not any of them would be interested would obviously be something to watch. And then it could be somebody that nobody is even talking about that might be interested in that job. Maybe they're working at another school and the Kentucky job seems like a destination job to them. So it's going to be an interesting search.
Do you think it's a high-pressure job?
I think so. I mean, and college athletics in general are high-pressure jobs, and we saw that whoever's in that seat is going to take some blame. They're going to receive some credit as well. But Mitch Barnhart, you saw over the last couple of years, for some of the contracts maybe that Kentucky was stuck under with John Calipari, with Mark Stoops, he certainly took his fair share of the blame for those kind of things. So when you're talking about leading that large of a corporation, let's just call it what it is, and that large of a department, there's going to be a lot of pressure placed on you.
And when you're trying to figure out what it is you're going to offer somebody, knowing that you have competition out there who also has money, donors, an alumni base, there you are, right?
And that's tough too, because one thing that hasn't been clear, since there aren't a lot of rules and guidelines for college athletics right now, it's hard to gauge the market. It's hard to tell, okay, what is this person worth, value, compared to what another school would pay him, because none of that is public. So yes, that is certainly part of the job of an athletic department at this point, trying to figure out how to literally buy a roster, which is something 5 years ago you wouldn't even talk about and was obviously not legal. Now it's certainly in the day-to-day process of an athletic department.
Mark Barnhart has a strong deal to continue with the university in another capacity, right?
Yeah, and a great one. I mean, $950,000 is what the contract is going to be, and I don't have the exact title in front of me, but it's essentially working on the sports academic side of things. So he will not be in the athletics department. His office will be over on UK's campus, but not anywhere to do with athletics. What I understand is they're starting a new program, kind of a sports management, if you will, program for students who are aspiring to go up that ladder of eventually being an athletic director or something like that. And he is going to oversee that for at least the next 4 years and make just under $1 million a year to do that job. And
maybe get them jobs, even in the professional ranks as well. I mean,
absolutely.
I think that sounds like what it is. All right, here we are, March Madness SEC tournament about to begin. We'll see what happens, right?
I mean, the unpredictables is what I'm calling this Kentucky basketball team. They've won some games they shouldn't have won, and they've lost some games they probably shouldn't have lost. They go into this SEC tournament. It's going to be really hard to make a run all the way to Sunday, but we'll see what they can do. Anything's possible with this group, but I think more importantly, they need to do their best to get their highest possible seed for that big tournament, which is another week away.
Right. They're fun to watch in a way, right?
If you don't have a weak heart, they're a lot of fun to watch. If you can just understand that they may take you through some roller coaster ups and downs throughout a game, then you're probably going to be okay.
Right. Lee K. Howard doing a great job as our WKYT sports director. Several months in on the job now. I know you're enjoying it.
It's fun. It's been busy as well.
All right. Thank you. We're going to come back in just a moment. We'll wrap up Kentucky Newsmakers in just a bit. Welcome back to Kentucky Newsmakers. We, of course, are continuing to watch the Kentucky legislature as they're moving through this session, including the budget debate, and lots of discussion about that. We do want to thank you for joining us for this edition of Kentucky Newsmakers. Remember, you can get the latest on WKYT.com, on WKYT Plus, or on air during our newscast. Thanks for joining us, and have a good week ahead.